Okay, it's starting live now. So actually, you should see something else now. So now we're live. No. No, I'm talking to you on my on my private line. Okay, I sent you an invite, so you should see invitation. That could be. Did you accept? Yes. And you see me moving. Okay, you have to accept. You have to. Yes, you accept it. Okay, I don't see you. I can't see you on here. Let me see. Okay, so we're live. No, they can't hear us. They can hear only me on this side, but I'm on the private line, so they can't hear what you're saying. Okay, you should have like an invite, and you have to push accept. I see you. I see you. You're on there. All you have to do is push. Okay, Karen. Okay, I'm bringing you on camera. There you go.
There you go. All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, my guest is Karen-Eden-Herdman. She's also my sister. We have an interesting segment tonight. Karen's going to talk about our people, our children that we're working for, and I want to get into some of the accomplishments that she's done and some of the things that she's doing. Karen, my first question for you is, what motivated you to get started in the martial arts?
You know, brother, I can just barely hear you. I have my volume up, but I think I heard you say what got me motivated to be in the martial arts. If you can adjust that volume on your end, maybe it'll work out. And I kind of have a very deflated answer to that. I get asked that a lot, and it's something I always wanted to do. And growing up, I really couldn't afford karate lessons. My family couldn't afford that. So when I became self-supportive as a very young girl, and I got jobs and I could afford it, I literally picked up the phone book and started making numbers. And back then it was the yellow pages for anybody who doesn't know what that is. It's, you know, you have to look it up, and made calls, and I picked the International Tung Soo Do Federation for private lessons with C.S. Kim in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I never looked back. I just stuck with it. That's pretty much it.
Yeah. Speaking of that, in Pennsylvania, and during this time, you and I'm supposed to be interviewing you. You're actually the professional. You worked, or you want to tell the audience about you worked with CNN, ABC, public broad. You've done quite a few fantastic
Well,
things in your career,
I thank God for
along
my.
with the martial arts.
I don't know why I can't hear you very well. I don't know if I'm doing something wrong on my end, but
My
is there a
equipment.
speaker button or something on my end? I
Um,
don't think there is. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, I never worked for ABC.
oh, okay.
Good company, you know, that would have been fine. I did work for some NBC affiliates, and
Okay.
in the TV business, you start out, you kind of like pay your dues, and you start out in small markets, and then you go on to bigger markets. And the dream, if you're in this business, is to work for major market TV. And I thank God I was able to accomplish that. Um, After about 10 years paying my dues, I guess, in that business, I worked in small markets, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Roanoke, Virginia, And I actually had 12 years of radio experience before I even started TV, but I started that as a teenager in my hometown. So I did end up having a contract finally with a major market TV station, a Fox affiliate in Pittsburgh at the time, and then I got an agent, and then things just started to move forward from there. That's when you finally start to make a little bit of money, and because there's so many people watching, so that's when they really take you very seriously at that time too. And then I went on and I did do some hits. I did a hit for CNN, um, and I did a hit for Fox National, and so that's kind of cool. And I also did some work with PBS and Animal Planet, which was really
Yeah.
cool because I love animals. So yeah, so I haven't been in the broadcast news business in a while. I'm still a journalist. I still write books and write for magazines and things like that. And I do my own blogs on AMAA Blog Talk Radio, which if you know is Jesse
Yes,
Bowman's. Yeah,
ladies and
yeah. So
gentlemen,
I've been doing
oh,
that
you
for about
got
2 years now.
an evening assignment. You got to tune in. This is
Yeah, yeah,
you
that
got
is. I have two of them. I have the Eden Assignment Inspirational Series, and that's got 4,000 to 5,000 people that follow me there. And then I have the Eden Assignment Warfare Series, and that one's jacked up a little bit. And I don't send out invitations for that. But if you're a spiritual person on a serious journey, you might want to check into that and hit me up on the Eden Assignment Warfare Series. I warn people, brothers, very Jesus-y. I'm all about my Lord and Savior, and if that's not something you want to do, then you don't want to tune that in. And if you do, then I come with all kind of disclaimers, as you know.
uh, um, you did some work in your city that the mayor recognizes, and a lot of the fans don't know this, but a lot of your work was with impoverished people and even gangs. I believe that you were in danger at one point with your life. Would you tell us about that? And if you guys tuning in, if you don't know what Bloods and Crips are, those are gangs that
Yeah,
you
they're
have to
my
deal
buddies.
with.
you know, um, I always say you can't help the way you're brought into this world, and what you know is what you know. And I just have always had a heart for less fortunate youth because I was one. And I was in a situation where I had a very lucrative martial arts program, still do. And at that time, it was through the Salvation Army, and they do a lot of hands-on inner city street work. And they were having some issues in a particular center, a lot of gang activity and that kind of thing. And they brought me in. They didn't really tell me that part, but they they
Let's
brought
get her
me in,
in and then
and
she'll find out, right? Boom.
I could see there were some major issues, and you know, a lot of people were like, "Oh, you need to quit," because I was getting some death threats. Evidently, I was messing with their thing when it came to the drug cartel, um, and I couldn't quit. I got to tell you, my belief is the safest place to be is always in the will of God, and I believe that, and I live like that. And you wonder how people do what they do. I thoroughly understand that now when you think of people who are missionaries in communist countries and police officers and our soldiers. They do it because they've been wired to do it, and they do it because many of them know that the safest place to be is always in the will of God, and God will wire you to handle situations if that's your calling. And that was the case for me, and I'm very thankful that things turned out well. I have two programs now under me, two schools under me, and one is still through the Salvation Army. That's one of the things. Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that either. But I want to talk about some of your accomplishments also. Um, I believe that you were recognized. You have a proclamation. You had your own day from the mayor in Denver, Colorado. I
Yes.
think there's three martial artists. I, myself, you, and Bill Superfoot Wallace. We have proclamations from the mayor declaring us our own days. Not holidays, guys, but to us it is like a holiday, being given a day from your city for your accomplishments. So that means that she's done quite a great job. Right now, my sister Karen and I, we were talking about some of the things about that's going on the reservation, and one of them is human trafficking. It's a very, very serious issue. It's not only going on in the reservations, but it's happening in different places. And a lot of the people being abducted, or the women are being used as sex slaves. And then on top of that, they're harvesting organs from people. And they're doing it not only in this country, but in Canada also. And our people aren't given the recognition or the priority to straighten this out as it should be, because we're Native Americans and our laws are different. Could you expound on that for me a little bit more, Karen?
Absolutely. I'm wearing red this evening, brother. I'm wearing a red dress, and that is symbolic of Native American women who are gone, have disappeared, literally fell off the face of the earth for the last several years. And it's a situation that a lot of people don't know about. It's way under the radar. And in our country, a lot of the Native American tribal women literally have vanished, and the resources aren't available to protect these women, and also to document and record correctly their disappearances over the last several years. We've had hundreds disappear here in the Plains area of our country, and we've literally had thousands that have disappeared in Canada with the indigenous tribes there. We don't know for sure what's going on. We have an idea that it might be the sex trade. We're really not fully capable of saying that at this time, but to try to alarm people and let them know that this is a horrendous thing that's taking place that people don't know about. And so I believe the government is just now trying to step in and send their people in to do some of the investigative work that's necessary for these women that have gone missing. I'm talking ages 12 to 30s, and mainly in that age bracket. And you know, it's unfortunate, but because of the tribal lands, the way it's set up, they have their own law enforcement, and they're not allowed to prosecute like we can under the U.S. government. And because of that, a lot of people come into the tribes knowing that they're not going to be prosecuted and will do these horrendous crimes. And so it's a very unfortunate situation, and the law needs to be changed regarding tribal elders to be able to prosecute on their own when these crimes take place. So, you know, I do travel, and I do a lot of Native American education. I show up in regalia. I try to speak and take donations on behalf of my many sisters across the country to try to help with the situation. But what I basically do, brothers, I will personally fly into tribal lands and reservations and teach martial arts to these women and even children to help them learn just some basic self-defense, you know, stranger danger, and a lot of things that they don't have access to. And I've worked with David Littleson, a martial arts master who is, he's Pawnee. And I went into the Pawnee Nation, and this spring I've had enough donations where I'm going to go into Canada, actually in Alaska and the indigenous areas outside of Juneau, and help with those Native American women working self-defense. And I'm being brought in through another master who's on my advisory council, which is Master Mike Schroeder. So, you know, this is something I just pray for everybody to keep these people in your prayers. This is a very serious situation and very unfortunate. You're talking about tribal law enforcement, maybe one officer for thousands of people, which it's not working. The land is so vast, and a lot of things need to be redone in tribal areas, and they've suffered enough historically, and this is something that really needs to be brought into the limelight, and I'm hoping to be able to do that. So absolutely, this is why I do a lot of speaking engagements, even in martial arts, and martial artists have been so gracious to be supportive, even financially, and help make donations on behalf of us martial arts masters who want to go up and help with these women and these children. So I want to say thank you very much for many who have done that, and I'm still networking a lot right now. And thank you, brother, for your heart, because I know this is in your heart, and you've helped me get connected with some of them as well. So thank you so much.
No problem, sis. No, sis. I also wanted to talk about this federation that you just got an award from. A lot of people you guys don't know that Karen is not just Master Karen-Eden. She's Grand Master. She's also Grand Master.
Well, brother, I didn't know that either. Honestly, I will legitimately be a Grand Master next year when I get 30 years in. in my federation, 30 years is the rank of Grandmaster, and I will have that in. And Master A.J. Perry, who's also a
Yeah.
Grandmaster out of the Cleveland, Ohio area, he sat on my black
My
belt panel
area.
in 1994 and judged me and passed me. So he's actually going to bring me in and award me my Grandmaster next year. I'm going to fly to the Cleveland Hall of Fame, actually, and he's going to do it there. So I'm very honored, but I just so we keep the record straight and Kopi, today I am not technically a Grandmaster.
Okay, I jumped the gun.
And besides, it sounds so old, brother. You don't ever have to call me that. It sounds like grandma, granny. I'm good.
You know, that's really, really, and that's how I felt about it too. Grandmaster, I'm like, you know, it's just a title.
Right? Yeah, no, I feel like Yoda when people call me that, like I'm this old man with a cane or something. I'm good. Just call me Master Karen. I'm happy.
So, what are your plans for the reservations as far as doing? And I know you're doing great activities for the children. Are you planning on setting up like a federation that will be specifically just for the children, just specifically, and I mean a federation just specifically for Native Americans?
Well, I'm probably going to run it through my Blood and Fire Federation. I've had that going on for almost 20 years now. And it's a federation that deals with just less fortunate out there. And it is a Christian martial arts federation. And I have affiliates all over the world already with that. And that's a beautiful story. I didn't plan on it to be that way. It just happened because I ran the program through the Salvation Army. And then, they're all over the world. So what happened was instructors all over the world that had affiliations with the Salvation Army were calling me, and I would just hook them up and just do a little bit the investigative work and find out who they're supposed to be with and hook them up. So as it stands, I have two different affiliates in Africa. I have an affiliate in Eastern Europe, and then I have others throughout the United States, just all across the U.S. And for me, it's not a power or control thing. Basically, they just confess that they believe in Jesus Christ, and they, whatever it's kung fu, taekwondo, it doesn't matter. And they adhere to a certain amount of principles, and then we put them in, and they run through our federation, and they can get promoted through our federation as well. I have a very esteemed panel of high-ranked martial artists, way higher ranked than I am, that I work with, that oversee and advise on my federation and have for many years. And so that's just a good way to be able to keep in the spiritual side of martial arts, and to keep it flowing and going in this day and age. That's my conviction, and I do feel it's very important.
Thank you. That was very eloquent. You have turned down a lot of invitations for certain awards and certain events. And I'm sure a lot of people was like, well, why didn't Master Karen come to this one or that one? Could you explain your reasons for not attending certain events? And it has nothing to do with that particular person. It's, as you said, it's with your beliefs. Could you explain what type of events that you don't do?
Well, sure. I don't do the expensive ones because they can get expensive. Okay.
Yes, very expensive.
They're all good. Listen, everybody's so good. My brothers and sisters in martial arts, they're all great. We get into it once in a while with each other, and I'm no exception. I have. But you know what? When it comes down to the bottom line, I know we're here to make a difference in the world. And
Exactly.
I'm way out here in Colorado, and a mass majority of those are over on the East Coast. And I do go when I can, but as it stands now, brother, I got a kid getting ready to go into college, and he's doing a lot of campus tours and stuff. And they're expensive for me to fly all the way out here to all of them. I have hit many of them up though. And I'm so gracious and thankful that they want to honor me or whatever. I always say, and I say this very tongue in cheek, I've got a lot of awards. Some of them are real and some of them aren't. I mean, can you be in 50 Hall of Fames? I don't know. But thank you.
Exactly.
Some of them I'm in twice. I don't know how this happens. But I tell you what, the Hall of Fames are good. And let me tell you two reasons why. The first one is it's a great time. I mean, you see so many people that do what you do, and it's just a very good time. It's a lot of fun, and I love hanging out with my brothers and sisters in martial arts. And then secondly, you take this stuff home, you put it on the wall, the general public, they're not readily aware that we're fooling ourselves. I mean, what most high esteemed. I mean, is there an ultimate rank, ultimate high supreme? I don't know. Maybe I'll get it, but they don't know, and it's very good for business. And you should display all that. I mean, I say it this way: if you've been doing this for several years, and some of us for several decades, with all the stuff you've had to put up from trying to teach a low block, and they come back the next day and you don't remember anything. For like the next 6 weeks, they don't remember anything, and you want to pull your hair out. You deserve to go treat yourself, have a good time, get the award, hang it up there. I mean, come on, just by your service of years and years and years, it's very well deserved. And some of them,
Yeah.
it's not that bad. If you were to go to any organization and buy a nice dinner plate, it would cost a lot of that. It's expensive for me to travel a lot, so I can't do all of them. But I'm very gracious, and it is a very good time.
Yes, it is. It's a lot of fun. You also have been awarded the Lifetime Achievement from the President of the United States. You have your own proclamation from the Mayor of Denver. That's got to be overwhelming.
Well, those are actually real awards. So I'm very grateful. The mayor one was with my work with the youth and the gang members in the city and county of Denver. That was awarded by Mayor Michael Hancock. And that one I'm very proud of, because I mean, that's just a piece of paper, but man, did that come with a lot of stress and even tears at times. And I'm very happy that I was honored by my city and county here in Denver, Colorado for that work. And of course, the other one, you have to do so many volunteer hours to get a presidential award. And I did calculate up, and I've done thousands, probably 3,000 to 4,000 hours of just volunteer time throughout my lifetime. And that one was, I'm very grateful for that. Again, it's a piece of paper, but it has a heavy meaning with it. And I have done a lot. I still continue to do so much volunteer work. I learned a long time ago, brother, I got my dreams. I was in major market TV. I had all the nice things that anybody could want. What really matters is for you to be able to use your gifts and ability that God gives you to make a difference in this world. And if you don't do that, you'll never feel like a complete person. So I never really worry too much about the money when I'm volunteering. I just know that God will provide it, and I just want to go out and do these good things. And I know I'll be taken care of. I'm okay.
A tremendous faith, which is a beautiful thing. And faith is what actually makes things happen. And that's what Scripture says. It's the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things seen. Along that lines. Along with these different federations, how many federations are you in? I mean, I know personally you've just been appointed Secretary General to the world's largest martial arts federation, the International Wushu and Chang Chu Federation.
This is true. I've been an honorary inductee to, I believe, several. And, I do check into them to make sure they check out and we're on the same path. That's the first thing that's important to me. A lot of them I'm in, sometimes they put you in things. I don't want to be ungracious, but I can tell you the couple that I have checked out over the years, and they're good federations. And of course, I have my own federation. So a lot of that is, it's not like I'm under somebody's thumb when I'm in a federation. It's this: I'm lending myself and or my name or position to try to help them because we're on the same journey. So my federation is the Blood and Fire Federation, which I already mentioned. And then I was just talking to our friend. He made me the general secretary of the federation. And I'm sorry, please pronounce his name. I'm a little Italian. You're way more Italian. So give me his name again. I can't pronounce it.
Gilberto Brasilio. Yes.
That guy. There you go. He's so gracious. I've had a conversation with him, and he really wants to help, and he wants to make a difference in this world. And we're going to be doing some work together to try to help with our Native American causes. I still do a lot of the inner city martial arts stuff, but I've given that over to my other two black belts to continue that journey and to help with the street kids and the gang members. I'm really focusing on the Native American cause because it's urgent. And, these women, they deserve to be protected. I mean, as a woman, even with 6 black belts, man, the thought that somebody is protecting me is huge, that I don't have to use any of my training to do whatever I have to do. And I'm always aware of that. But to think of these women out in these vast land tribal areas who have no protection, my heart just goes out to them. And I would like to help that, make a difference and help that stop, because it's just, it's a basic human instinct to be protected.
Yes, yes. Yeah, that's very, very deep. You threw me all off on that one. That was very touching, and it's very personal. To me, also. Very personal. You really threw me off. Is there anything else that you wanted to say? I'm sitting here asking all the questions.
Oh, let's see here, brother. Well, I would just like to say thank you for the opportunity. And, people don't know a lot about you, but you've got a huge heart. I mean, you're just a big-hearted brother. Like, I'm always warning you to, brother, watch out. You've got a big heart. How many times do I take that?
Yeah, I know. Yep. My sister gets on.
We have, and people don't know this, but we have some long talks sometimes. I mean, we'll go on for hours, and people don't know this about you, that you are incredibly knowledgeable on what we would call revelation knowledge in the gospel, in the ministry of Christ. And you do have that going on. I mean, you blow me away sometimes with the stuff you say. It's just so deep. And I thoroughly enjoy that about you. There's not too many people I can talk to like that. There's maybe one or two others, but not many. I just would like to say that, for my brothers and sisters out there in the martial arts industry, to keep fighting the fight, doing the good cause, and just always remember that people are watching you. It's the same speech you got when you got your black belt. People are watching you and how you carry yourself, and they're watching how you post on Facebook.
Yeah,
so be careful. I mean, I'm just a human being too, and I like to have a good time and stuff. But some of that stuff you got to be careful, because people are watching, and you're making an impact. And some of those people who are watching are very, very young. I tell this to my instructors all the time. You guys watch the social media, because what you post, if you wouldn't want your 12-year-old student to go on there and look at that, then don't post it. If you wouldn't want to have to explain to that 12-year-old's mother what's going on, then don't post it. Be very careful, because they're watching this stuff and they're seeing what you're doing. I mean, you're a Bruce Lee idol to them, and we know we're not Bruce Lee, but to them we are. And we have to be very careful, how we carry ourselves.
Yes.
Can I give myself a plug, if you don't mind, brother? I just would like to plug my books, and I have 4 books out.
I was going to ask you about that, about your books. And how many books have you written, sis?
I have 4 books out, and my biggest publishing was The Complete Idiot's Guide to Taekwondo. It's a Simon & Schuster book. I'm Tung Soo-Do. I worked with a Taekwondo practitioner that the late John Corcoran hooked me up with to do a lot of that work, and that would be Keith Yates, and he's incredible. And I was fortunate. I just had I had some lunch with him. He actually bought me lunch, which was nice of him, and recently in Houston. Funny thing is, that book has been out since 1997, I think. And I never met Keith, because that's technology, but he's an incredible gentleman, and that he was my co-author on that book. And then I have 2 through Century Martial Arts. I am a martial artist, and they call me Master. Both of those have spun off a product line, and I think they've sold out on that. You can still get a lot of the books and stuff through Amazon and Barnes & Noble, but you can't get them through Century Martial Arts anymore, at least not the first one. The I Am totally sold out. They Call Me Master, I believe, is still available. And then I have another one that has nothing to do with martial arts called Will I Ever Feel Happy Again? It's a self-help book that I wrote. And a lot of people, brother, they don't know this about me, but I'm also a seminary graduate and ordained chaplain, and I do a lot of counseling. A lot. Even now, I do a ton of counseling. I've done counseling in prison. I've done counseling in hospitals, police departments, organizations like DAR, Boy Scouts of America. I still do a lot of that. My self-help book is specifically for people who have unfortunately had to deal with the loss of a loved one through suicide. And unfortunately, I have been touched with that, even 3 in my family, including my own father. And my father was a brilliant man. He was a physician in Air Force intelligence. So it has nothing to do with anything other than a lot of mental illness. But what happens is the stigma left over for people who have to survive it
Yeah.
it'll definitely crash your world. And I've had my world crashed with that. And so I did write that book, and it's with health professions that deal with grief counseling. And the setup is people who have survived a suicide of a loved one from as much as 50, 60 years ago. And they write about how they've gotten through those 50 or 60 years. So if that's something that's affected you, I want you to know my heart goes out to you. And I also want to just say, if you want to get the book, Will I Ever Feel Happy Again? It is available online through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and it is recommended by the Survivors of Suicide Federation. So thank you for letting me say that.
Yeah. Will I ever be happy again? Is that the name of it? From Amazon?
Will I ever feel happy again? Yes, sir.
Will I ever be happy? You got to get this book. I'm telling you, because it's deep, and and not even if you've had a family member commit suicide. If you had a family member that say that died from cancer or a car accident, the grief and the depression that sets in can be overwhelming. And sometimes you need the inspirational word from someone, and sometimes you can't get that personal feeling of spiritual unity from another person. Sometimes you, and I know with myself and with you, you have to look within. The spirit is within you, so you have to look within
Well,
yourself.
and sometimes, when you go through something like that, it takes someone else who's gone through it to really be able to be a comfort to you. So everybody in this book, all the subjects have gone through it. And it's just, I spent a lot of years researching as a reporter, documenting, going to groups, and really learning and understanding this process. And unfortunately, it's a horrible evil right now, especially out here where I live in Colorado. And it's with young people, and to think that you could be so young and feel so helpless at that point. There's a lot going on there. And unfortunately, until we can come up with a solution as to why this is really happening and what we can do about it, there's people who are living the rest of their lives brokenhearted. And that's what this book targets, the survivors of someone who lost somebody.
That's very, very, very deep. You also represent a line of products, martial arts products. A lot of people don't know that either.
Yes.
Could you
And
tell us
most
about
people don't know that about me.
exactly?
Most people don't know a lot about me. I'm very multitasked. There are people who do one thing and they do it really good, right? And they're known for it. I I always really didn't like that I could do, like, I love doing a lot of different things that have nothing to do with martial arts actually. I've been an entrepreneur, and I did have my I am a martial artist line was very successful. It sold all over the world. We're talking not just the book, but posters, bookmarks, T-shirts. I mean, you name it. It was a really nice product that Century Martial Arts picked up. And I also had a line called Dojo Darling, and it was a T-shirt and just a women's, mainly a women's product line, Dojo Darling. And I still do. I have a lot of that left over. Karate Depot picked a lot of that up, but I have a lot of that left over, and then I do still sell it as a fundraiser when I go out and I speak, and I just give the money back over to what I'm trying to do to make a difference.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, a lot of people didn't know that. I think you just your show is in Las Vegas, is it? Every year in Las Vegas that you do that and promote that.
When I get asked to speak, and I've actually been very busy doing that, traveling and speaking. Whenever I do that, I always bring my books and a lot of my products with me, and I just let people know it's a fundraiser for the causes that I have. So yeah, I was just in Vegas, and yeah, I've been pretty busy this year. I've learned the hard way. When it starts to get cold, I like to maybe take a break until it warms up again, because as you know, I got really sick
Yeah,
doing
the last
traveling a
time
lot
you
during
were
the
in
winter,
New
back and
Jersey.
forth to the East Coast, and
Yeah.
I ended up getting the flu, and I didn't think anything of it. It's the flu, but it went to my heart, and it almost killed me. So I ended up having a heart rate of 250 beats per minute, and normal is 60. So just to let you know, when I went to the ER, I was code blue. I mean, they were asking me stuff like, do you want to see a chaplain? I'm like, well, you know, I am a chaplain, but thank you. And I know what that means when they do that. That's code blue. And they weren't sure if I was going to make it. So they had to really stop my heart and restart my heart. And, you know, they had to basically kill me and bring me back to life to get my heart rate to go back to normal. And it did work. But I have learned that, you know, I want to be very careful. These super bugs and stuff, they're not like they used to be, these flu bugs. So once we get into like mid-October, I decline any invitations to speak until probably after Mother's Day, you know, sometime in May. That's usually when I'll pick back up, just because I don't want to take that chance again. You know, once you go through that, it kind of weakens your heart a little bit. I'm fine, I'm good, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to experience that again. You know, they said if I wasn't in good shape, I probably I would have passed, because that was over 2 hours. My heart was beating at 250 beats per minute.
Wow.
So God still has a reason for me to be here.
Blessing. A lot of people don't know this either, that you worked with Jean-Claude Van Damme. You've been in the movie business also, and a lot of people don't know that. You're in the Screen Actors Guild. You did a movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme. You booked with Cynthia Rothrock.
Yeah, that's true, brother. Now, I don't really talk a whole lot about that. I don't really care for the business, if you want to know the truth. I mean, I did 2 movies. They were major movies, and it's really not my thing. The Van Damme movie, Sudden Death, I did stunt work in it. So you would probably, I mean, you can see me on there, my face and everything, but you'd have to like look really close to see someone do the stunt work. And that was interesting. That was back in the 90s. And I played a police officer, and I did all the stunt. I mean, I literally like, I remember they poured 3,000 gallons of water down the civic arena, or whatever that was called in Pittsburgh. And
Wow.
they just told us to run. Like, don't worry, I will run. Don't worry about that. That was fun. But it let me know what stunt work was like, and it's not something I really want to continue. And then, you know, my sister Cynthia Rothrock, she's also a Tuxedo practitioner out of Pennsylvania, which is my camp. We had it's the same instructor, at least that was one of her instructors. And you know, I was in a movie with her, and I had a feature role, and that was called Sworn to Justice, and that was also back in the late 90s, and that was a Showtime feature. It was one of those karate movies that used to come on the Showtime channel. I think it still does. I don't know, but that was nice. But you know, it's really not my thing. I'm not really interested a whole lot in doing that kind of thing. I have got a lot on my plate, and I feel like I'm in my calling to do what I do. So I like to stay focused on just what I'm doing.
A lot of people want to see you get back into film because you're awesome, and I know that they would love to see you, including myself, even if it's just a cameo role. That would be a nice thing to see you do. Okay,
well, I appreciate that, and I'm not ungracious, but you know, sometimes people still hit me up, and you know how I am. I really just want to. I have a thorough understanding on my spiritual journey that I want to help people in the way that God wired me to do. And you know, if it's not going to come to fruition to be able to do that, then I really don't want to expend a lot of time doing something else. You know, God's blessed me. My ego's good. I have a nice, strong ego. To, you know, go out and do movies. I'm cool. I'm all right. You know.
It's the good kind, and there is 2 different kinds. There was something else I wanted you to expound on too. A lot of people have been asking me about, and it was one of the first projects that I intend on doing, but I got sidetracked with something else. The Trail of Tears, where our people were uplifted from their homes and actually marched to Oklahoma and out west, and actually died. Women, children, and a lot of us hid. Could you let the public know a little bit more about your knowledge of that? Because you've been different parts too.
Yes, I took the Trail of Tears. I did. Not the whole thing, but yes. First of all, I want people to know I am multinationality. Nationality. I have the latest DNA test says 14 different nationalities. So um, I think I broke the machine. I don't know, but you know, and I'm proud of all of them. I also have Asian, and I have a lot of European, and I have you know, I just Scandinavian, you know, you name it. But the Native American, there's enough of a percentage that I could join a tribe, and my heart is there. I identify heavily with the Native, and I know I've got every genetic to look at. I know that. But you know, I have a heart for Native America more than anything, and I do heavily identify with it. And the Trail of Tears was historically back in the 1830s, and so what you have to look at is the time when the European settlers were coming over. They discovered that there were certain very fertile areas of land, especially land with gold in it, and a lot of that would have been Georgia, Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina. I mean, a lot of the regions there, and they wanted to come in, they wanted to settle that land, but especially the lands that had gold in it. And so they wanted to strike treaties with the five, what they call the five civilized tribes: Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Seminole, and Creek. And they wanted to negotiate that they would take over the land. Unfortunately, the over 400 treaties were erroneous, and the government did not hold their end to those treaties. And the Native Americans were getting wind of it. So they didn't want to move. I mean, they're like, no, I've been here for thousands. My people have been here for thousands of years. We don't want to move. We want to stay where we are. And so they, as a result, under the presidency of Andrew Jackson, they were pretty much just forced out, literally forced out, given maybe 10 minutes to grab a bag and then hit the road by foot. And people don't know the extent of what a horrendous act that was to thousands of Native Americans. And it wasn't just the Cherokee or the five civilized tribes. They had their own trails up around the lakes. Many tribes were displaced and relocated, and you know, forced on reservations in a land boundary where they were not allowed to leave that land area till like the 1950s. They couldn't step foot outside of that boundary. So when you talk about Native Americans, they're very outdoorsmen. I mean, the only reason they would go inside was to sleep or to stay away from the weather. These guys lived outside. So to take them away from the outdoors was very cruel to them. They're very much free-spirited people, and they're very much in touch with the land. Their religion is all about being in touch with the land as well. So that was very brutal to them. And there were a lot of Cherokee people, brother, who got wind of what the government was doing. And you got to realize that this Cherokee territory alone encompassed about 10 states. And they hid. They assimilated, they colonized. They were not going to be forcibly displaced. And my ancestors were that way. I don't have an ancestor that took the Trail of Tears. I may, but I can't paper trail that. So if I don't paper trail it and document it, then I don't even mention it. But I do have one that is documented Cherokee that actually fought in the Revolutionary War. And he and his family colonized, hid in the mountains. They would hold school and church in caves with other Cherokee people up there in Kentucky and parts of Virginia near Cumberland Gap. They would do their work. They would do it in hiding in the mountains, and the government didn't think it was worth to expend any time or effort into those Appalachians because it was brutal. It was rugged land and there was no gold there. So they weren't going to mess with that. They wanted to go more south into Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Kentucky, and those areas. So a lot of people, here's my point, a lot of people today say, I heard that I had a Cherokee grandmother or in my family. I hear that through oral tradition. And I believe you because, you know, it was a bad time to be Native American and they weren't going to expend that information. And you probably will have a very difficult time if you're one of those five civilized tribes documenting it. If you're over on the other side, the Plains and Natives, that's very easy to document. But it's very hard to document Eastern Woodland Indians, brother. So, you know, I'm not one of these people that says, oh, you're not Native American. I do hear a lot about my grandmother was a Native American princess, and people want to know if I get offended. And no, I don't. I don't know about the princess part because Native Americans weren't into royalty. However, I do believe that you were a Native American. I don't doubt that one bit. And, you know, if you do come from someone that's Native, they suffered. I promise you. They suffered. And if you're still here today and they lived, they deserve to be honored. They were an ancestor that deserves every bit of honor. And if you can find out who it is, please do. Go for it and try to support, the people out there still today that need help.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And speaking of that, there's a lot of Cherokee, and a lot of people don't know this, Seminole, Choctaw, they're tribes of color. And there's also the freedmen. And I want to do a documentary. I'm going to do a documentary on that. I know my knowledge is a little bit limited, but yours is more extensive than mine. Could you explain that?
Yeah, I've done a lot of studying, brother. I am a Native American educator, so I want to make sure that I understand these things. And I've traveled. I always travel, and I pay my respects to Native American lands, hit the museums, talk to people in that culture as much as I can. And you're correct. During the time of slavery, it would not be uncommon that Native Americans would marry into the African Americans. It's not uncommon that European settlers did. African Americans today are very mixed people in our country. It's not just African blood. And now that would be one side of it where you can actually DNA prove that you do have Native American, regardless if you're black or whatever. The freedman is a different story. To be a civilized tribesman, in other words, there was so much pressure on these savages to become civilized. And one of the ways that they had to prove that they were civilized was to be a slave owner, because that's what was going on at that time. So even a lot of the Native American business owners of these 5 civilized tribes, and they were wealthy business owners. They dressed like colonists. They had big houses. They weren't running around in a skirt. These guys were civilized. They also had slaves. So what happened is when they had to take the Trail of Tears, the slaves went with them. And when over the course of history, they became known as freedmen because these slaves that were part of the 5 civilized tribes became free. They gave them up, and they still stuck with them, a lot of them. But that's where the term freedmen comes from. It is a Native American term, meaning that we no longer are slave owners; these are freedmen. So that's the 2 different ways that people of color would have an identification with Native America.
Thank you for expounding on that. And I'm going to, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to expound on that more in a future documentary called The Trail of Tears and the Freedmen. And that's going to be coming next.
And a lot of people, that's history they don't teach. And it's history they should teach. I mean, people don't know the history of what Native Americans have gone through when they were here 16,000 years ago. There's a lot of history. And I'll just tell you something really funny. A lot of times that I watch a lot of the documentaries on TV, I'm into the paranormal science stuff. I've studied paranormal science a lot too. And being someone who's very spiritual, I actually deal a lot with it, paranormal things. But anyway, a lot of times I hear, I heard that our house was built on a Native American gravesite or whatever. I got news for you. America is built on a Native American gravesite, okay?
All over, yes.
120 million Native Americans over the course of 16, there were 120 million when the European settlers got here. Imagine over 16,000 years of people being born and died. I mean, they were buried everywhere. And over in the plains, for the nomadic tribes who lived in teepees, they literally had to bury you where you died, and they went on. The Eastern Europeans and the civilized tribes, the Eastern woodlands and the civilized tribes, they had mounds, burial mounds, and they had a lot of stuff going on. But it depends on the tribe how they buried their dead, and it's everywhere. So stop blaming Native American dead people for being haunted. That's probably not it. It's
yes. Yeah, and the spirituality of Native Americans is very, very, very deep, and it goes into different facets of different things. Sis, you're also a medicine woman, and you're still researching. You have family that has been handed down medicinal remedies that are not known to the general public, and these remedies are now holistically they're being proven to be effective. Could you
Yes.
talk a little bit more about that?
Yes. My daddy Don, I call him Daddy Don. He's actually my biological father's younger brother, but he adopted me, and he's up in his 70s. He's the last of the Appalachian medicine men. That's what I call him, because he was the runner for my great grandmother, who was a mountain doctor. He was the runner as a child to go get all the herbs. If she said, "Go get me some slippery elm," he'd take off and go find it and bring it back. And because of that, he's very, very knowledgeable on a lot of the Appalachian herbs and what they're used for. And so I'm trying to document him, and I go every year and I study with him. And he sends me, he'll dry things out and send them to me. And I'm always like, Daddy Don, how much do I take? I mean, I don't want to kill myself, you know, drinking this stuff or whatever. He's, oh, just a little bit, don't overdo it. That's what he always says. I'm like,
Yes.
a little bit, okay. But the stuff really does work. I have quite a collection now of medicinal herbs in my own house, and he's just his knowledge is what I really want to document, and I've been doing that over the last 2 years and trying to learn the trade, because when his generation dies off, the trade is lost. But you got to remember, that's part of the world that was so wild and so backwoods that you couldn't get a doctor, not a medical doctor. And even today, those guys, I mean, they don't have medical doctors. You'd have to be life flighted out if something went wrong. They don't have hospitals nearby in that part of Tennessee, back in the mountains and stuff. And a lot of them still do a lot of the practices, but it is a dying art, and I want to preserve it. As far as being named the medicine woman of my tribe, my chief gave me that badge several years ago, and I'm very honored. I told him I was Christian, and the medicine person has to be in charge of not just healing with herbs and things, but also healing people's emotional and spiritual needs. And I do that anyway on sometimes a daily basis as a counselor. So, I was very honored to get that. And I know a lot about the Native American religion, don't get me wrong, but I always make sure I tell people that I am Christian and I identify with Christian. And if you call me to help you, I'm probably going to pray with you and work with you spiritually. So I like to let people know that, even though I am Native American, one of my many nationalities is Native American, I should say.
Yes. I think that's awesome. So you're writing a book on this collection that you have. You can actually.
Yeah, well, I'm working on it. I'm still in a documenting stage right now. I'm doing a lot of just taking notes, and I'm trying to learn it. So I have to look at a plant, identify it, and then know exactly what it is. Because he was brought in it as a child, brought up in that, it was not uncommon that he just knows this stuff. But I wasn't brought up with any of that. So I have to go back and learn all of that. But yes, I am in the process of learning that. And it's very interesting how God supplies what you need from Mother Earth to help you with anything. I don't care what the problem is. There's like a plant out there for it. But then you think that, even the medicine we get from the physician in the doctor's office, its rudimentary forms are these herbs if they're not synthetic. That's where it comes from. And so, it's just having a knowledge of that understanding. I do believe that God created all these things to make us better. The thing you have to realize with, when you're working with herbs right off the land is you have to know how much. I mean, that's important. That's very dangerous if you don't. And, you have to have a respect for that. And, you have to double check. I don't recommend someone just go in and do it, because this is real medicine. This is what medicines are made of, these herbs that come out of the land and these plants. And sometimes it's tree bark. And, it's been a great lesson, because he'll take me back in the backwoods and start peeling a tree and go smell it. Now, you'll know this by the way it smells. So when you need this, make sure you smell the bark. And I never thought that's how I could identify a medicine, but it is true. They have different smells.
Like mint or something like
that. Yes. So absolutely. And, the Native Americans knew all this. They knew. So much of that is lost, and that's a shame. But they had a working knowledge of how to use your 5 senses to be able to harvest from Mother Earth the things that you need medicinally for your well-being. I mean, they just have a knowledge that I hope won't die out. And I hope there are other people like me studying this.
For thousands and thousands of years, so you know that they knew exactly what worked and what didn't work. And
Yeah.
now plants
And a
and
lot of
stuff.
times, you know, it's not instant. A lot of times, you know, when you work off of the land, it takes time, brother. You know, it's not as quick, but you have to have a little bit of patience with a lot of that when you work with it. And then some of it is quicker than medicine. I mean, there are things that he was teaching me about things for babies, like a colicky baby, you know, the grasses and the roots and the things that work to help even with colic. And, you know, if you've ever been a mother with a colicky baby, nothing works. So it's nice to know that there is a, you know, my grandmother evidently told him when my brother was colicky to go get the root, and she brewed it and made it a cooled down tea and put it in his bottle, and he was fine. So that was one of the stories that I got. But you know, I'm comfortable with working with that because you know, I that's part of a lot of my heritage, just coming from a family that lived in the Appalachian Mountains. But you know, a lot of people aren't that comfortable with it, and I would just encourage you to please, you know, check it out and
Check it out, because I can attest to it personally, because I'm not going to go into detail, but I had some serious health problems for about a year. And I had been taking different herbs, and I still am. And my mom gave me a recipe, and I still take it today. It's apple cider vinegar, garlic, and Appalachian honey. And I guess there's a difference between the
right.
Appalachian honey and the different other honeys. And it is very, very, very effective. Another thing I
Oh
want
yeah.
to put on, you know about that one, huh?
Oh yeah, I do. And the reason why you specified a certain type of honey is because the bees pollinate different flowers from different parts of the land. So
Uh,
that particular honey from that region would help people that grew up in that region, because you develop an it's all about the allergens from the bee, and you can develop an immune to that, and that's going to help you guard against allergies if you're from that area. So it's not just any honey. You know, if you're going to eat a honey, yeah, I would go to your local grower and get the honey in your area, because that's what's going to help you with allergy issues. You know, don't get the stuff from China because it's not going to. I mean, it might taste good, I don't know, but if it for medicinal reasons, things like you know, honey, you want to make sure that they're local for you.
oh, that's just like the ginseng. I mean, and ginseng is grown in the mountains, but and doing my research, and I know a little bit about the herbs too. The Korean ginseng is actually the best, and actually, the older the root, the stronger, the more potent it is, and that's very effective. It's one of
Yeah.
the other things
And
that.
there's a lot out there, and I possibly couldn't learn it all in my lifetime, but I'm moving forward with learning it, you know, the best that I can. So, you know, if I with a little bit of time, maybe I'll be able to answer a lot more questions when it comes to holistic healing and things from the earth. You know, it's just gonna, you know, it takes 4 years to get a black belt, right?
Right, right.
It takes time to get good at stuff. If you do
And
it right, you
sometimes
have to
5 years.
spend the time,
Took me 5, but you go ahead.
right?
Uh, yeah, everyone that has, I got, not everyone, I had a few questions about, because I call you Your Royal Highness, and I wanted to expound on that to people a little bit more. My sister Karen is a descendant of the House of Oda, Japan, Shogun. She is a Royal Highness, in my eyes, as far as I'm concerned. And she has kimonos over a century old, and I have a picture of one of them. Could you tell the fans about that?
Absolutely. So yes, you see, I am multinationality. I got a lot going on in
Oh.
my bloodline, and I'm very proud of that. On my mom's side, she is a descendant of the House of Oda Nobunaga, who was a well-known shogunate. Understanding the way the history of that works is, in the House of Oda, you had a lot of people. It's not necessarily blood relations, but it's people that you aligned with. So my ancestor was aligned with the House of Oda. I did look him up, and he was a general. And I didn't know a lot of this until maybe 4 or 5 years ago, because Japanese genealogy is very difficult if you don't know Japanese, and I don't hardly. And I tell people I know the cuss words because that's what I got from my mom. But I don't speak it fluently, and I had to work with a specialist who came in my path, a genealogy specialist who was trained in that, and he showed me a lot of things, and they go a lot by symbols. So I did have a very old kimono that was given to me, and he told me to bring it in, and then the kimono had identification on it of the House of Shogun by the floral kaimon. It's called a kaimon. It's called a mokumon, and anytime you get into floral kaimons, you're talking about shogunate. That was their symbols. And back in their day, if you wore a kaimon that wasn't yours, literally they would chop your head off. It was brutal. I mean, you had to be proven to be with a house before you were allowed to wear those symbols. So I saw that on that, and I saw that on some other things like some jewelry, and so I had discovered after asking a lot of questions with my mom's side of the family that it was indeed true, and I had the kimonos and the jewelry pieces to wear it. So it's kind of interesting because no one in my family is into martial arts but me. And not just into martial arts, but we're talking on going on 30 years here. And so it's nice to know that I do come from that. That means a lot extra to me. My family had the swords, the shogun swords. A lot of that was confiscated after World War II. Maybe you don't know historically, but there were no weapons allowed by Japanese people after World War II. So the GIs would literally come in and confiscate even the swords that you had, which is a real shame because that was lost in my family. And I actually tracked that sword down, and I found it in a private sword collection in Houston. And it cost about as much as a Mercedes now, and I'd love to have it, and I feel like it's mine, but there's not a whole lot I can do about it because that's just, Japan lost, and
it's
that's
from
the way that
your
works.
family. Yes, House of
Mm-hmm.
Honor. So, ladies and gentlemen, now you know why I call her Your Royal Highness from the House of Honor. So she is of royal blood. So when I say that,
Well, I
I'm not just
appreciate that,
saying that out
and
there.
you're very kind, brother. You're very kind, but you know what? I'm just a servant of God. I just hope to make a difference in this world before I move on, and if I can help people with that, I'm doing my job. And I try. I'm one of my gifts is broadcasting. I did it for a long, long time professionally, and I'm a writer, and I try to now use that to the best of my ability to try to help people on their spiritual journey. So I would just want to say, especially thanks to Jesse Bowen. He's given me a show every Monday night on AMAA radio, Blog Talk Radio, and you can actually go online after the show runs on Monday nights and you'll see it. And I post it too. But he's also trying to do a lot of work like that. So I see he's watching. So I want to make sure that I plug and tell him I know I appreciate him with that. That's been going on for about 2 years, and I say some stuff that a lot of people you're not going to hear on TV, guys. A lot of the stuff that I say, and I'm always like, oh, is this going to be the show where I get kicked off? But I'm still here, so that's cool. But you can tune in the Eden assignment, and you can see it on Facebook where I post all of that through my groups. And don't forget, there's the inspirational series, which is always heartwarming and very fluffy and kind, and that's where I have a huge following because that's the way I write. you know and then there's the warfare series, which I always say, if you don't want nervous diarrhea, then don't listen to that one. That one is jacked up spiritual stuff. Okay. So but anyway, brother, yeah, absolutely. We're all on a journey, and just encourage everybody to know the way God wired you to use it going forward to make a difference, and you'll be blessed in it. You'll get everything you want or need on top of it. You can't outgive your purpose with God. You just can't do it.
You can't beat God given. That's what He is, His love. And that's what love is. Okay, I'm not going to take any more of your time. I know you're a very busy woman, but you guys, I appreciate you tuning in. I hope this was informative, and I know a lot of you got your questions answered. There was a lot of you asking me a lot of these questions that I asked her, and I hope that you found it. How you doing, yourself? I hope that you found it very informative. And I want you guys to know I'm very, very close to my little sister. She's very, very kind also, and very, very informative in many things. and I've learned a lot and still am learning from it. So still don't forget to tune into the Eden assignment and her other pages and check it out, because I guarantee you when you leave, you will be a different person. You will have a different outlook, a different way of seeing things. So
thank you, brother, for that. And you know, once we get through the winter, I've got a few more weeks here. I'm actually going to be headed out to Pittsburgh pretty soon. But once the weather gets warmer, you know, if you'd like to have me come and educate, well, obviously after 30 years, I can do all the martial arts stuff, but everybody watching can too. So try to make it a little more unique. I like to do the Native American you know, seminars and talk about things of that nature. And, you know, I do donations on behalf of my sisters who are disappearing, as we talked. And I'm going to keep wearing the red dress in honor of them, with the ones that have gone missing over the last decade, that God rest their souls, and that more of our women will be protected, and we won't have to worry about them having to go through these horrible situations. So thank you for giving me a platform, you know, to continue to do this work. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, brother, love you. You know, we get in there and we talk when we can't sleep at night. We'll start talking, and it's some good stuff. You know, I'm waiting for you to get a church. I don't know why you won't do it. You're deep, man. You're heavy. You're good. But anyway, appreciate, love you guys. Thank you so much for all your support. Appreciate you so much. And thank you for watching and listening and buying my books and everything else. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys, and tune in next week when my guest will be Tommy Wolf from the Apache tribe. He is a descendant of Geronimo. Actually, Geronimo's nephew is a relative of his. So join me. This is going to be very interesting. So I'll see you guys next week, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. And God bless.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.